Do I feel bad after I took apart the Nintendo room and the collection is out of this space while I move? Hey Nintendo fans and collectors, Lithium here from my channel Nintendo Collecting. This week's QLithium question comes from Ken O'Donnell on YouTube. He asks, do you feel bad taking apart the Nintendo room after having it so tidy and neat in the space you have to turning it into a temporary mess till you have the new house? Thanks so much for your question, Ken O'Donnell. Well, essentially, in order to move, I was wondering what I have to do to this space to sell the home, because you don't want to walk in here and see this monstrous collection. But my real estate agent is a family friend. It's actually the mother of my wife's maid of honor from our wedding, and she was basically stating that no, you can keep a lot of it down here. This is kind of like a rec space. It's a gaming space that might actually sell the house. So I was wondering originally, I thought I was going to get rid of the TVs. She said leave them. I was going to get rid of the NES coffee table, which is really cool, by the way. I'll show you that in a moment. And even the Pokeball table, get rid of them, I thought. But no, leave them all in here. So I was just trying to declutter. I didn't want any of the collection in here in case someone looking at the house, whether it be on a showing or during an open house, they could just walk out of here holding something, or holding Earthbound of all things that's worth a few $100s, which I did not want. So she said, no, leave the charm in the room. The shelving, I left everything except for the Pokemon shelf that I did have over there of all the Pokemon games. I moved the fridge out a little bit so it's more visible. I could have probably put the door back on that space, but I didn't. And the collection's gone, but the charm of the room kind of still remains. The shelving everywhere is going to come down with me, so I do have a lot of work to do, obviously, to get everything out of here when we do move, which is at some point midsummer, like end of July, towards probably the August, because we have to do a little bit of work in the room. So to more specifically answer your question, do I feel bad? Do I feel bad taking apart the room? Absolutely. You never want to take apart something that you put a lot of time and effort into. And even speaking right now, the room feels a lot more hollow. Whoa, walked into something. The room feels way more hollow, and the space is empty. It just feels weird with it being gone. Now, if you're wondering, how did I empty out this space? I emptied it out basically in 2 days, almost completely single-handedly. My wife, I want to thank, she helped a little bit, but I got boxes from my house, from my in-laws' house. I got boxes from work that were no longer being used, that were empty, and I filled all of them. And even then, I didn't have enough boxes. I had to just carry out things by hand. So all the figurines went into a box, all of the Nintendo Power magazines were boxed, the games were boxed up, but the systems, the boxes for console systems, and all of the accessories, as in the controller boxes, almost all of those I carried out by hand, like 6 controller boxes at a time. I brought them into my car and I basically played a giant game of Tetris. So doing that, did it feel bad? It absolutely did. I don't want to take it out of this space. I'm not sure if it makes sense to move everything back in here, and that's why this room is going to be empty for a little while. I'm going to move some things back in because we're going to be living here for over 2 more months still. Well, after it sells anyways, and we have got an offer already, which we're probably going to accept, which is really exciting. It happened really quickly, but I pulled a lot of hours. I had to stay up insanely late, go over to my parents' house, which isn't that far away from this space, and I put it back into the old Nintendo room. So at some point I should probably show you what that looks like. It's just really boxes upon boxes filling that old Nintendo room, the original Nintendo room, filled with space. When I bring things back, I'll be happier, I guess, in some way, but getting rid of stuff actually does feel rewarding. It feels like a weight lifted off of you. This house is so insanely clean right now while we sell it, and most of our stuff's either at my wife's parents' place or my parents' place, so their place is a bit of a mess while they store everything, but this right now feels insanely clean, really neat. It feels like a fresh start, and I'm going to be building the new Nintendo room. Of course, all this stuff's going to come over, but it's going to be changed. I'm going to try and make the space different, try and bring things over, but also make it new again, which will be really interesting and really awesome. So, am I living in a mess? I absolutely am. While we live, we're not even sleeping here right now. We're actually sleeping at my in-laws right now, and essentially we'll be moving back in once we do sell the place and it's finalized 100%. So it's tidy in here, though my parents' place is not tidy, and my collection's just in boxes and boxes and boxes, which is really annoying. But at some point, it's going to come back out, and I'm going to move the games back in, so at least we can play those at some point, which will be fun. So temporary mess at my in-laws and at my parents' house? Absolutely, but right now this is insanely clean. It almost feels like a fresh palette that you just fill everything up with, which would be pretty cool if I didn't have a monstrous collection that I have to store. By the way, this NES coffee table, I've talked about it so much, but I've never actually shown it. So I think I really need to do a video about how cool this table is and how much better this table is than the last NES coffee table. So that should be coming at some point, and I did mention I want to do a recent pickups video, so I still want to do that just with the collection packed away. I've got to find those items and do the video. I should have done it beforehand, but I'll get to that. And additionally, if you have any questions for me, feel free to just ask below as a comment. Put QLithium or hashtag QLithium, and I'll check it out, and maybe I'll feature in another episode of Question Lithium coming up in the near future. Ken O'Donnell, thank you so much for your question. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to enjoy this whole moving process. Feel free to follow me on all the social media links in the description below the video. You can also follow me on Instagram. And remember, as always, go collect them all and keep smiling while gaming.